So
there hasn't been any substantive, election for a substantive chairmanship.
Yeah, there hasn't been. Do remember that the APC is, unlike other parties, you don't just appoint a chairman. It has to be through elections, and so on. And by the party constitution, when the office of the chairman becomes vacant, like it was the case with my moving to becoming deputy governor, the deputy chairman fills in the space in an acting capacity until there is an election.
Let me read this to you. Yeah. Mr. Shuaibu Wada says, what we are having as APC in Kaduna is a kangaroo, rubber stamp, and an appendage of the state government. Is that true?
No, it couldn't be true. It couldn't be true. How could it be true? Going by what I've just told you. Look, let me tell you, give you a little background to what this is, what is happening, what this is all about. When I came in just before the state congresses, around the 7th and 8th of June 2014, there were three problems, or one major problem. There were inconclusive elections in some positions, in some delegate positions in some local governments. In the case of two local governments, Kubau and Kaduna North, there were no congresses at all. So, as a chairman, just before the state congresses that produced the candidates, the governorship candidates and other candidates, it was my view that we needed to sort out this and have an agreed list with the national, supported by INEC records and everything. And what we did was that the state working committee, because at that time, we were waiting for the national to come and conduct elections into the offices there whose elections were inconclusive, but they were not forthcoming from the national. So what we did was that the working committee sat and said, because the primary election for the governor for the governor was just around the corner, and so we sat and said, look, we must not import viruses, so to say, people who are not duly elected delegates to participate in the primaries. So what did we do? We agreed as a state working committee to set aside all elections that were inconclusive. Whether those delegates were in favor of whatever candidate, that was not our problem. We set that aside. And then we also had noticed, even as at that time, that somebody in the name of S.I. Wada was being paraded as a deputy chairman.
Even long before now?
Yeah.
Even at the time you were...
we were just about...
So it's not the first time you are hearing that S.I. Wada?
Yeah, no, I heard about that name before.
Even at that time?
Even at that time, listen to me. Now, so what happened was that we now said, okay, who is this Danladi S.I. Wada? We need to clarify this before we go to the primaries, the governorship primaries. And so what we did was that the state working committee sat and agreed on two things. One, set aside all those whose elections were inconclusive. Secondly, on the issue of S.I. Wada, even though we knew who the vice chairman is, if you watch this video, it will show you the congresses. It will show you the transparent processes that took place. It will show you how Shuaibu Idris emerged as the state deputy chairman. It will show you nothing, not even a word concerning one S.I. Wada. If you watch this, you'll see it. So we needed documents to support our position. So we went to INEC. Please, can you give us an authenticated list of delegates that you cleared to stand for elections?
The election at the Congress.
And they came up with Shuaibu Idris. All right? And
this was what year?
Yeah,
was in 2014 or what year was this?
2014.
That INEC came back to you?
Yes. And so we came back with that list and said to the state, to the national, to the party leadership at the national level. No, sorry, before we got to the national level, when the working committee now decided on those two things, one, take off Danladi Wada because he doesn't exist as far as we are concerned by the records. also take off the delegates whose elections were inconclusive. All right? Now, we now took that decision to the state the expanded ESCO of the state. The expanded ESCO is constituted by members of the State Executive Council, the local government chairmen of the party, members of the National and State Assembly, including those that were former members, National Assembly. It's a very large body. They looked at the decision of the working committee and ratified it and said that's the best thing to do. We then went further, and Senator Hunkuyi and distinguished Senator Sani were part of these processes. We now took up this with the state caucus, made up of elders of the party, then chaired by Tijani Ramalan, who is on the other side now. And that state caucus also ratified that decision. So it was that decision we now took to the national
body of the party,
the national ESCO of the party, which now approved that as the authentic list.
Okay.
Now that was the list of people who now participated in the primaries to produce the governor.
Okay.
And as well as the Senate.
Okay. I'll ask you this question because
let me just say this before if today they are contesting the fact that Idris Shuaibu is the deputy chairman, they can as well return home because he was the one that participated in the election, not S.I. Wada.
Okay. Mr. Deputy Governor,
yeah,
and I'll put this straight to you.
Yeah.
One of the talks in your party in Kaduna State is that the El-Rufai-led government is threatened even from the inside. Yeah. He may not return to office in 2019. No. And that's why he's fighting hard.
No, let me tell you something about El-Rufai. Actually, El-Rufai has been questioned by a number of people, even among his colleagues sometimes. You know, he's often asked, do you really want to contest elections? And you know why they ask him these questions? They say, look at the reform you are doing in teaching, and look at the perception people have.
All right. Just 1 minute. Yeah. We need to take a break.
Okay.
But when we come back on the program, demolition, lawsuits, endless war of words, and alleged anti-party activities, why is Kaduna APC entangled in so much drama? More on the program when we return.